Hello and welcome to episode 54 of the Splendor Unity Crash Course. This episode we're going to do a few extremely useful things. We're going to do some post-processing effects. We're going to fix up some optimization on our lighting and camera. Let's start with our camera. We'll get into post-processing effects probably in the second half of this video. So let's start with our camera. So this far and near clipping planes right here. This is basically how the distances the camera's going to register. Now 5,000 is ridiculous. For a small game like this, obviously there's nothing drawn past the skybox. But if you had a big game world, it would be drawing, like, I'm not sure what this is, 5,000 feet or something. But what we need to do, you can't actually change this on your camera while you have a Cinemachine brain attached. So you just need to come down to your Cinemachine game object here. You can change the clipping planes here under lens. So your field of view as well is changed here. You can't change it on your main camera or the Dutch. So the Dutch, if you don't know what that is, it's a tilt, and maybe it can be used for an effect, but creatively probably in some level design. Our near clipping plane, let's just go 0, and it's never ever going to be actually 0. So 0.01 is fine for this particular game, but you might want that as low as possible. This far clipping plane, I'm going to go to 100. Okay, and as you can see, that registers from the center of the game right to the skybox. So if I bring this down, let's see where 70, around 80. So let's go to 160 and see if we can run around everywhere and never basically stop drawing the world. So where do I need to go? Keep forgetting about that. It scared the crap out of me. So I think I'll just take my player and drag him back. We're going to design the actual level very soon too. So I'm going to delete all those crates in a second. Just put this guy over here and see if you can see the other side of the level. If I come back here, I jump. Yeah, it'll always drop. Great. So that distance will work for me. So just make sure you can always see your level. Always see your skybox. So that's good. Another thing we want to do is if I want those flashing lights on the explosions and stuff, and they're going to be happening all over the place, you want to change your rendering path to deferred, okay? And that'll change a few settings about your game. So lighting settings also. So that's the reason I did that first, before going to the lighting. So that should be totally fine now. What this does is it'll just render lights. I think it's vertex lit as opposed to like volume lit. It's just a more optimal way of rendering lights. So in a detailed game, forward rendering is going to render lights very powerfully, and you don't want a bunch of different lights being super rendered kind of thing, right? Shadow casting is very costly on performance. So with that being said too, we could change a lot of the shadow casting of this stuff, but I think I like the way it looks personally. But you could change the fact, like you could make these not cast shadows if you wanted to. Just go off. Right, so do any kind of optimization you need there, apply your prefabs, or you can do it in your prefabs. Right? For me, I'm just going to leave all the shadows going. I think that's okay. We'll check out some quality settings on our project manager as well. Okay, so let's go Window, Rendering, and Lighting. Okay, so you can dock this here as well. I like to dock this somewhere around there. So because we're using deferred lighting, yeah, so this fog right here. Fog has no effect on opaque objects when using deferred shading rendering. Use the global fog image effect. So what it means by global fog image effect is a post-processing effect. So we need to add our post-processing, and it'll give us a little checkbox to use deferred fog, and it'll basically fix that up for us. So if you want fog in your game, I'm not going to use it, but just to show you how it's done. It's very, very good for basically disguising the edge of your far clipping plane here. Oh, you can go to your light here, your directional light. And you could change the resolution of your shadows here. You can decide hard shadows or soft shadows. Soft shadows are basically blended out to not look so choppy. Hard shadows have a lower resolution usually, even at a high resolution. Yeah. So soft shadows are a lot nicer. Low res, you can do low res shadows. Yeah, that'll increase optimization even more. So I'll do medium resolution shadows, sure. It's probably much better than low and a lot more optimal than high. Okay, so there's some things you can mess with. Your intensity is right here, obviously. You might have seen that a while ago. And you can also change the color of your light as well, obviously. You can do whatever you like with that. So let's add our post-processing. So what you want to do, if you haven't already, go to Window, Package Manager, wait for this to load up. You want to make sure you're on Unity Registry in your package list. Okay, you want to go Post. And you should see post-processing pop up right away. So just either update or install, whichever button you have there. Make sure you have the latest version 3.1.1. Okay, so I've already got it in there, so that'll allow me to... let's delete these crates, get them out of our way. Okay, very clean. I think our player's on the wrong platform. That he is. This is the spawn. So let's take our character, drop him under the spawn, reset. Sorry, we don't want to reset the size. Just reset the position. Bring him back out. And we can rotate him to face the right way. And bring his feet up. So we'll add some particle effects, a few more things to this world before we're actually finished here, but let's add our post-processing. That beautiful thing I've been talking about. Let's create an empty. Let's call this empty post-processing. Okay, let's add a component. Post. So after you add the install the post-processing, you'll have 3 more components you can add here. So we want the post-process volume. Okay, so we can it wants a profile. This is basically a list of image effects that you have, so we can just create a new one. Okay, we can click this, and it created it under our game level profiles. So it created a folder in our scenes called game level profiles and gave us this asset right here. So this is basically our list of effects. So you wanted to change this on your game object, really. But using this post-processing profile, this default one, on any of your levels, will have the same effects, basically. So you can change the effects overall, either here or in the asset itself. So when you give it a weight of 1, it is global. Okay, so we'll add some effects in just a second. We need to add a layer here, post-processing. Let's add a layer post-processing. Add space, why not? Okay. Don't know if this needs it, but we'll just add it because it is part of that layer. Let's go to our main camera, change this to post-processing as well. Okay, so now we can add the post-process layer to our camera. So this is basically going to take in everything on the post-process layer and use it as image effects. So our anti-aliasing, that's basically the step, all this kind of jittered edges you see when they're really straight edges. We could say fast approximate, right? And this is what you use on mobile devices, but it works pretty good. I like to use temporal. Oh, sorry. So in our game view, you'll be able to see. Most of these image effects will only be visible in your game view, so you keep that in mind and change your stuff accordingly. So you can change the sharpness of this, which is very cool. Motion blending, might want to bring this way down. All right, let's leave it at the default values for now and see how it goes. But I don't want my sharpness to be up because that kind of adds edges, as you can see, the steps. We'll bring that. I'm going to bring that all the way down. Jitter spread, sure. So here's that option for deferred fog on your post-process layer of your main camera. So you can enable it if you want to use it. I'm personally not going to. So you can actually change the lighting, the fog settings right here, about as long as you have this enabled here. So if I go to lighting and enable fog now, increase the density. Okay, so this unlit object, the skybox, is actually not the skybox this is talking about here. So if you want to exclude the skybox, or don't exclude the skybox, untick that. And there you go, there's some cool fog. So we could keep this in the world, in which case we wouldn't really need our skybox at all. Yeah, so you can do whatever you like there. You can make this colors, right? Get a little bit interesting. It's kind of a faded effect, so the closer it'll get to the player, you can see it kind of fading. Very cool fog effect, like that. All right, so I'm not actually going to use deferred fog. I'm just going to disable both. Now we can start adding image effects. So we can go, you can add an effect. Unity, and here's all your different effects. So the first one we're definitely going to add is ambient occlusion. Let's add that. So drop this arrow down. Make sure you check all these off so that it's activated basically. Let's go to our game. Sorry, don't check ambient only. That's for something else. So we can change the intensity up. And as you can see, it's adding some darker shadows in volumetric areas that have like close corners. Right, so we don't want him kind of glowing there. We can make that a little bit dark because it's underneath him. Alright, so let's go maybe 1.5 thickness modifier. We don't need this to be weird like that. Scalable ambient obscurance. Multi-scale volumetric obscurance. So one of these work better with temporal aliasing. So let's just see what we get. Sometimes you get these crazy lines in your world, especially if things are moving. No, we're good. We're good. You can see the darkness of the bottom of the player's feet. You can see how more of a photorealistic look we're getting. So maybe the sharpness on my, or maybe the blending is way too high. So let's play. Click our post-process layer. Or sorry, this is on the main camera. The aliasing itself is on the main camera. On our post-process layers. Let's change the stationary blending down. Okay, let's go 0.4 and 0.4. Let's see what we get there. Okay, so it's not so blurry. That's what I want. About that. So I'll go 0.4 and 0.6 for that. Just gonna unclick play because it won't save. 0.4 and 0.6, cool. I'll turn the sharpness up like the slightest bit. You can see all this step here just increasing as you do that, really. So that's, yeah, I'll leave that the way it is. Great. Go back to post-processing. Let's add another effect. So you can change your actual ambient occlusion color, but for the effect that it's meant to do, I recommend keeping it at black. It's just meant to give you darker shadows and more of a sort of ambience, basically, right? So let's add bloom. So light bloom is basically going to add sort of a soft halo around really bright lights. So if I turn the bloom up here, yeah, see our white spots? Because the light's reflecting off of them, like on the top of the player's head and on the white platforms, parts of the platform, you can see those increasing in brightness, kind of. You know what I mean? And this is just an image effect that's attached to the camera, so you can go up pretty high and it won't actually affect performance too bad. But I recommend just using a lower number, maybe 1.5 would be fun. Let's go with that. You can play around with all of these values. Again, you can change the actual bloom color, but for the purpose of it and what it's meant to do, no matter what color your lights are, white is the best color to use for this bloom. For what it's meant to do. Obviously, you could get creative and use these for different things. Let's do color grading. That's one we want. So you can mess around with this like crazy. You could add so many different good effects here. But all I want to do is go to mode and change it to ACES. Okay, so this is going to kind of darken stuff. We go neutral, none. So ACES kind of gives a little bit more contrast. I don't want to change the temperature or the tint. That's colors. Exposure, post-exposure. Okay, so it darkened it a little bit, so I can bring this up maybe to 0.5, sure. Hue, saturation, contrast, obviously. Saturation, if you want your game to be black and white, just drop that all the way to 0. It's a really cool effect. Or sorry, negative 100. Saturation is 100 to negative 100. So you can actually code this as well and give some cool effects in games. Like when you die, you could fade this to black and white. Just make sure you set these things all back to normal when you start your level, because it will remember on this asset itself that you change this stuff, right? Just to bear that in mind if you do end up using that in code. All right, so that's cool with me. I'll go with that. Let's add another one. Can go crazy. Let's add depth of field. So depth of field is going to actually blur things at a distance or things that are very close to you. And it's really cool. So depth of field. Let's pause. Okay, now I might want the boulder and the platform way back there. Maybe I want that to be a little bit out of focus. So you can change the focus distance. Be closer maybe. Yeah, we changed it to closer. You see the effect we get there. So it is paused. That's why it's jittering pretty bad. So maybe that'll be good. Let's go 2.5. Sorry, 3.5. A little bit further. Aperture and focal length will give you different types of blur as well, so you can play with those until you're satisfied. So anything else I want? Auto exposure. This is a cool one. Basically, if you're hanging out in a house that's dark, and then you walk outside and there's a really bright sun, everything will kind of flash white and your eyes will readjust, or in this case, the camera. This chromatic aberration will actually make, to me, it looks like as if your player is really drunk or something. Like it kind of morphs the colors around you and gives it sort of a rainbow effect, and almost like you're in a total daze. I'm not sure. That's just the way I think of it. Yeah, there's all kinds of stuff you can use here. So we could do motion blur. We could do a vignette. Let's do a vignette. So a vignette. Sorry. I want to unplay this, and it saved my depth of field. Cool. So let's add a vignette. Mode, color, center. Check all this stuff off just so we can affect it. And I think I'll increase the intensity, of course. So what this is, there you go. So it's basically almost an eyelid around your camera. It is a nice effect. Basically gives you a little bit more focus on what you're looking at. You know what I mean? Kind of fades out your peripherals so you can better focus. So that's a cool one. We'll add that, why not? You could add motion blur if you want. Most people, in my experience, don't really like to use it anyway, but you can give people the option, right? Have a checkbox and stuff in your settings. So I think that's pretty good for me. So in the scene view, obviously you don't see your effects, but if we click play, see everything looking much, much better. Less step. Get some bloom effects out there. Right? Let's drop down. Cool. Looking much nicer. So if it looks dark and a little too shadowy, just change your ambient occlusion and your color grading and until you're satisfied with that. Alright. Alright, that's it for this one, guys. And in the next one, we will build our level and create our pause menu and stuff like that, possibly our main menu. Okay, thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next one. Bye.